Good evening from a brown girl. I was born on August 15, 1969. The first 6 years of my life, I lived on a military base in Germany. By the time I was 8, we were stationed in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And after a year of living in Fort Knox, my daddy received a 1-year assignment in Germany. He left in December 1979, only to return to us 2 months later in a wooden box. I was 10. On February 20th, 1980, we laid him to rest in Glasgow, Kentucky. On that day, I lost my mom to depression and my brothers to silence. I wore a navy blue suit on that day. I loved that suit. I felt good in that suit. I felt seen and important in that suit. You see, there were no words of encouragement, no hugs or reassurance that I would be all right. I lost validation. No one told me I was attractive or valued or even wanted. After the funeral, the decision was made to remain in Glasgow. You see, growing up in a small town where brown faces are few will leave you searching for your identity and your place in the world. I had a grandmother who at times was mean and unaffectionate. I would spend summers with her along with my brothers and cousins, and I would recall the stories that she would tell, that blacks are not allowed to go downtown. I was told that blacks lived on one side of the railroad tracks, and you could clearly tell by the houses. The brick was faded, porches needed painting, and the yard, more dirt than grass. Unlike the houses on the other side, they were big and spacious, and lawns were well manicured with white fences. As she told stories, she would often tell them while cooking. I remember how little was ever said to me, and most of the conversation and compliments were directed towards my cousins who were pretty girls. Her words. Yet again, I felt ignored. I lost my daddy. I was the granddaughter who did everything you told me to do. I needed to be acknowledged. I needed to be affirmed. In August 1982, my mother enrolled me and my siblings in Austin Tracy Elementary School. We sat in classrooms that had no reflection of us. My first day on the playground, I had a fight. Leanne challenged me to a relay race, and I agreed because I knew I was fast. They created lines on both sides of the playground, a start line and a finish line. As I lined up, I heard someone say, "On your march, get set, go." I took off, and I won. Angered at the loss, Leanne walked up to me and slapped me. Well, I returned to slap with fervor. Leanne still talks about that slap to this day. As my teenage years approached, moving to Illinois at 16, I did everything I was told to do, always looking for approval, never wanting to disappoint. I graduated high school, wanted to go into the military, but my mother was against it, so I didn't go. I wanted to go away to school, but out of fear of disappointing her, I stayed at home. And as I grew older, I found it hard to depend on anyone for anything, especially emotionally. I struggled to show how I really felt and often lost connection with people due to my inability to connect with people. And I found meaning and comfort in helping others accomplish their dreams, promoting their ideas, and at times, even giving them my ideas to claim as their own. I easily conformed and would suppress my own desires just to please others. Conformity is a bitch. And I gave her license to move freely. For years, I lived like this, people-pleasing, not realizing that this was a sign of lack of self-worth, feeling inadequate, lack of confidence, and poor self-image. For 30 years, I let others make decisions for me. I chose poor relationships, experienced failed marriages, and at times was even immobilized with fear, and would often refuse to take jobs when I knew I had the skill set to complete it. In August 1999, I enrolled in college, took a stipend job with the promise of a scholarship upon completion of service. And although it took me 20 years to complete 3 degrees, I did it. Obstacles I faced: divorce, homeless, divorce again, bankruptcy, bankruptcy again, bankruptcy again, yet I pushed on. Wednesday, December 18, 2013. The time was 4:18 p.m. I lost my mom. You see, on that day, not only was there grief from losing her, but it was threefold. Who tells me what to do? Whose approval do I seek? And who do I please now? 4 months later, I fell and I tore my meniscus and fractured my knee. The healing process was long and painful. The loss of independence, my mom, at the same time, difficult. Not being mobile for over a year gave me time to be reflective, and guess what? Time to eat. I gained 30 pounds, and funky depression had the nerve to join the party. I kept telling myself I was all right, but I wasn't. After attending weeks of physical therapy, I decided to address the obvious, the weight. So in October of 2016, I joined a boot camp. I showed up 5 days a week with no idea what I was doing, but I kept showing up. There were weeks I failed and gained back the weight I had lost the week before. Then there would be another week when I would have success, but yet I kept showing up. This went on for months. I will never forget the day when I decided that I was done with not getting sustainable results. And I decided to educate myself on what would work for me and take charge of my outcomes. And I knew that that meant I had to face the loss of my mom. So as I was sitting in church, and my pastor walked up to me and said, "Go get help." I pulled out my phone right then and there, typed in grief therapy, and made my selection. My first session was in October of 2018. And I remember as I walked up the steps, I cried the entire way. I cried because I'm a black woman. I'm supposed to be strong. I'm an educated woman. I should be capable of handling hard situations. At each session, I unpacked my childhood experiences, and I slowly began to reframe events that occurred from the time my dad died to the move to Glasgow. I cried some sessions, and some sessions I laughed. In 2020, we went to virtual sessions. Having virtual sessions allowed me to have access to things in the house, so the healing process was different now. I couldn't run away, hide, or be selective with unpacking my emotions. You see, it was during the pandemic that I began to have the conversation about my grandmother. So one day, I found an old picture of me, and I was in gymnastics class doing a headstand. As I looked at the picture, I was overwhelmed with emotion, and I began to cry. I loved gymnastics, and I was good at it. But at my grandmother's urging, my mother took me out. And so I knew then and there what my next session would be about. Slowly, I began to unravel the cords of misconception, limiting beliefs that I erected based off of a false narrative spun from a hurt brown girl. As I shared the picture with the therapist, I started to reframe my perspective on what my grandmother thought of me. I was encouraged to do this through reflective journaling. So as I stared at the photo, I began to write. She kept this photo as a memory. It was significant to her. It mattered enough to make it to the family photo book. You see, journaling became a big part of my healing process. I wrote about my divorces. I wrote about the bankruptcy. I wrote about past memories of hurt, shame, and loss. And as I wrote, I made notes of how I overcame each obstacle and the lessons I learned. I learned to be brave. The lessons you learn during the times of loss, depression, seeking your own identity, guess what? It creates clean opportunities for you to write something new. That led me to be curious. New chapters can be written. New paradigms can be written. And it also led me to be vulnerable. You see, it's through vulnerability that I found strength and I learned what I was capable of. I found my voice. What I had no words for, I now have words for. Loss, shame, hurt, grief ended up being a roadmap that led me to me. You see, I now know that the legacy of women before me, they lived, modeled, and scaffolded resiliency. They showed me how to navigate it and turn it into life lessons of wisdom and strength. You see, they understood the word because it was built on their own experiences. I now know that hugs and words of encouragement were given, but it was given in the form of, guess what? Great food, stories, smiles, and nods of approval. So as I stand here, I hear my grandmother call my name, Lissa. I hear my mother say, Melissa. And then she pauses and says, little bit, and calls me by my nickname. And so as I stand here, they affirm me, and here's what I hear them saying to me. I am smart. I am beautiful. I am strong. I am creative. I am wise. I am vulnerable. And guess what? I am loved. And my name is Melissa Renee Rumph.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.